Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your weekend was absolutely outstanding. Mine sure was. We'll come back to that one in a minute, but I'm very glad that you're here and with us. Quick preview on what's coming up on this live stream today. Then we'll zoom in for further details. Here we see some time ago, there was a Tyler Robinson hearing. This was from his Utah court appearance, being prosecuted for the murder of Charlie Kirk. And we got to see his face seated there in his suicide vest for the world to observe, as is usually the case when you're charged with felonies for murder. Now, this is the biggest political assassination of our generation and many people's lifetimes. And we were hoping to see him today when he had another court appearance, but we did not see him. And this is now becoming a pattern because the last court setting that we also had, there was no Tyler Robinson. The judge said that he heard him, it sounds like, on the jail call. But then today we got to see another WebEx meeting that looked like this. And again, Tyler Robinson was nowhere to be seen. Now we're going to go through it because I found a couple different feeds here. And we want to pay close attention to what the judge says and if he's just listening for him or what. Because that's the whole point of being charged with a felony. Okay, they bring you to court so everybody can see it. It's not like you just get to phone in like a speeding ticket or something. So we're going to go through this today and see what is happening. We'll listen to the full case at 1.5 speed because it was a ruling today on what's happening in the forthcoming dates. We have more court dates scheduled for January. So this case is going as slow as molasses. And a bunch of stuff will be coming up, but they need a bunch of time because there's gobs of discovery and evidence. And so we'll go through the latest and see what happened today in the Charlie Kirk assassination case. And of course, revisit our mind map coming up soon. Then we got to talk about Jack Smith because he's a little bit freaked out. It sounds like he's got this post from Marsha Blackburn burning in his pocket. And now he's trying to negotiate no consequences for him when he shows up to Congress to testify. Well, I'll come there as long as you don't punish me for all my criminality. Marsha Blackburn is saying, no, we're not going to do that. And there were some pretty interesting articles that came out. Washington Post had an exclusive on this one, explaining how his case collapsed and what a terrible loser he is, not even a real boy. So we'll go through that. We got another article. Apparently he was basing a lot of this on Mike Pence trying to take out Trump accordingly. But Chuck Grassley released over the weekend a document proving that there is some connection with the Biden administration. In other words, Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco, and Biden probably, if he knew where he was, approved the investigation into Trump because they're maniacs. So we'll go through that. Hear from Marsha Blackburn, then talk about the most recent arrest with Pam Bondi. And Pam Bondi has now been the subject of a hit. Somebody posted $45,000 to eliminate her or capture her. And now that dude has been arrested. And in response to a lot of these attacks, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche have now made an announcement to all of the California and Sanctuary City political hacks who are continuing to harbor foreign illegal invaders are now going to be subject to a lot more scrutiny. Todd Blanche and Bill Esseley over from California are out saying there will be repercussions for you if you attack our federal agents. And so, my friends, it's going to be a beautiful stream. Very glad that you are here and with us. We had a little bit of a hiatus on Friday and Saturday, but your boy has returned. A married man, baby. We did it. We had a beautiful weekend. We got married in Jerome, Arizona. Alexis said yes, which is very nice. Thank you, my love. And we had a great wedding. It was an awesome time. We had our family there. It was small and quaint. And we danced to a string quartet. We had a beautiful stack of short ribs. And we got married. We commemorated our eternal love and matrimony. So it was a beautiful weekend, and I just wanted to pause and say thank you to everybody who sent us nice emails, nice messages, nice replies, nice gifts, and all the things. Very, very grateful for your support, your advice, and your wisdom. And we have a lot of love out there in our community. A lot of people, 20, 30, 50 plus years who have been married. And so we feel like we're in good company on this new journey that we're both on. And so she is planning on joining us. We think she'll join us on Saturday, and she'll come out and hang with us this weekend, and hopefully we'll have some fun there. But that's the update. She's also going to be assembling photos and all the things, so we'll be sharing some of that stuff. But big weekend for your boy. Many people never thought it would happen, and it was a beautiful wedding. Lots of beauty and fun. So we had our friends there. We had our families there. It was a great time. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for indulging me. And you're going to see this puppy floating around the air now, since I'm a married man, a real boy. It's good times. All right. So now, without your support, we couldn't do this. So thank you for all of it. We appreciate you. And now, my friends, let's get in to business on the day, because we got some good business to attend to. And here is what is happening. Strange court hearings in the Charlie Kirk assassination case. We now have 2 times that we've had court that we, the public, haven't had a good eye on the shooter, Tyler Robinson, the man allegedly responsible for taking out Charlie Kirk with a gunshot as the sole shooter. Now, we saw today there was another hearing that wasn't all that interesting. It was about civilian clothing and what he needs to wear. But something else stood out to me. It's the fact that we're not seeing this dude anywhere. He was there today, and his attorneys were appearing via WebEx, the telecommunications suite that is terrible. And they were all here in this montage, as you can see, talking about the case and about whether he should be in prison gear or whether he should be in civilian clothes. And so the attorneys were there, but you'll notice right here in this little box, it says UJ. Yeah, that's the Utah jail. And we didn't see him at all. Now, I pulled up a couple different feeds from today, and we're going to listen to this thing in full so we can see what the actual appearance sounded like when the judge marked him present on the record. Appearances, please. Okay, prosecutors. Okay, defense attorneys. Okay, how about the defendant? Are you here? We'll hear what happens. But this was the other feed. Okay, so this was also from Fox 13 News via Utah. So they called in a little bit different, not dark mode. They had the judge in the main, and they had Utah County Jail. You can see right there. Once again, no Tyler Robinson. And his attorneys are there, present, of course. And I would presume that the jail has a camera that they could flip on, but we don't see him again. And the final feed that we have has the very beginning and the end. Okay, so this was another good one from Fox 9 Minneapolis. They were on for a while, and I was asking myself, well, maybe before they went on the record, there was the camera that got turned on, and the judge said hello to Tyler Robinson. But as you can see me scrolling through here, we're not seeing any of that at all. As far as we can see, we're going to watch it. We'll watch this feed. This has the most activity, but we're not seeing Tyler Robinson anywhere on this feed. Now, Fox News is also confirming that. They said here that the assassin does not show his face in court again today, and the key hearing is being postponed. All this stuff is being pushed out till next year, and this is a pattern now. Remember, the first time we saw Tyler Robinson, he looked like this. He showed up for his initial appearance and didn't say much of anything, but the attorneys, the judges were all there, and we got to see him. That was some weeks ago.
Attorney to
here, let me scroll out of this one so we can see the date on this.
Represent you.
Oh, this is in the embed mode. Yeah, so anyways, this is from his first hearing. We got to see him that time. Then we fast forward, and here, let's click this to see what this gives us.
On your case.
Yeah, here it is. So 1 month ago, you remember this one 1 month ago, Salt Lake City Tribune, we got to see the dude. So they know how to turn the cameras on in some way, shape, or form. And we got to see him in the jail, Utah County Jail. Great, just move him back to that room. Okay, he's there the whole time. And this is important because this is a felony charge. This is the greatest political assassination of my lifetime, many people's lives too, multiple generations. And we want to make sure that the dude is in court appearing for his felony for assassinating Charlie. So that's why the camera's on, okay? If you try to get a virtual appearance if you're a felony defendant in Maricopa County, if everything's open, it's not COVID or whatever. No, get your butt down here. You're out of state? Well, fly here, okay? You have to show up in court so we know where you are and the judge maintains jurisdiction over you and you're apprised of everything. It's a virtual appearance, if you're going to have those, should essentially be an equivalent, okay? An equivalency of being there physically in person. Cameras on, mics on, judge can see your eyes, judge can see your body to make sure you're not getting beaten or abused. You're not just taking the jail's word for it. Want to make sure you're there in a facility, not in a lounge somewhere with your feet up, having caviar or whatever. And so we want to make sure that you're there. This is from the original hearing. Then we fast forward. Okay, now, and remember, just to mind map this out for us so we can see these hearings. First one was back on 9/16, September 16th. Then we had the waiver hearing, which was basically just a big fat continuance. That was on 9/29. Then today we've got a status conference and a clothing conference, essentially, on 10/27. And so the first one, we got to see him. The second one sounded like this, and we didn't actually get to hear from him at all. But this is from the moment where the attorneys for both sides are announcing their appearances from hearing two.
Lauren Hunt, Ryan McBride, and Chris Ballard for the state, Your Honor.
Good morning, counsels.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kathy Nestor, Michael Burt, and Richard Novak on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Morning, Your Honor.
Okay, now listen to this. Do you think the judge can see him, or is he just getting confirmation from the jail that he's there? Watch this. So they're going to go over to the judge. He's obviously not in the courtroom. I don't know why he's not in the courtroom, but he easily could be. But the judge will then now say, are you there on the other end? And listen to this and just ask yourself if the judge is looking at him or if he's getting confirmation from the jail that he's there on the line.
Good morning to you all.
Morning.
And to the jail, do we have Mr. Robinson present?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Robinson, good morning to you as well. Counsel, as we begin, I have entered...
Okay, so we didn't even hear from him. Not even, are you there? Are you present? Nothing. Didn't even hear him. Yeah, he's here. And I don't know that he could see him on his monitor or anything. Maybe he could, okay? Maybe he was also calling in on the virtual WebEx, right? That's what I thought. Okay, well, you can see him on the screen. He's there. You can see what's going on. And he didn't even announce or anything. And he just had the jail confirming his attendance on his behalf. Now, again, and I'm not licensed in Utah. I don't practice law in Utah. Maybe this is a very common thing. This is a little bit weird if you're practicing in Arizona, where you have the defendant apparently missing in action from all of the court proceedings. Probably a little bit weird in Utah, too. So that was from late September and about 4 weeks ago. And so I thought, oh, well, somebody's just, he's on the WebEx. You can see him on the screen, and he was there. He made an appearance. But then we fast forward to today and some interesting things happening. So here is just a short clip. Now, this is how this one started. All right. So KSL News Utah, they're saying the stream is going to resume shortly. And so their camera bros are waiting for the feed to pick up, and it picks up kind of in the middle of it.
Those are some of the arguments involved in court security protocols.
All right, so we missed the announcement. Okay, so we missed appearances, please, just like we heard. Prosecutors, who's here? Defense, who's here? Defendant, Tyler Robinson, where are you? We skipped that, right? So I'm like, oh man, we don't see it. So then we get through it, and you can, of course, there's no Tyler Robinson on the screen. These are all the attorneys. That's over from KSL News Utah. And if you fast forward and scrub through this feed, then you'll notice that there is no appearance of Tyler Robinson at all, right? So he doesn't show up on this feed. And this one looks like it's a WebEx and maybe a newer software or something. But the feeds that are being reported are different. So then we move over to this one. We come over here and we see, okay, Fox 13 Utah, they've got this feed. And I think, is this the good one? Yeah, this is the good one. So I found that the third one. Then we went over here, and this was Fox 9 Minneapolis. And yeah, so if he was looking at him, right, so back up to the second court proceeding, if he was looking at him, then you'd see something like this, right, on the recorded screen. So I don't think exactly what's happening here happened on the prior call, although we didn't see the screens at all. But you would, again, expect that the jail would turn on the camera just for the judge, and that's not happening unless they're on a different WebEx line, unless they're on a totally different Zoom meeting, a different call or something like that. This is how the whole thing starts. And so let's check in on this. But this starts, okay, it's about 19 minutes. And so we'll fast forward through some of it because we're just waiting right now. So the judge is hosting the meeting. Fast forward, fast forward. Then we get two people, Chad Garunder and David Sturgill hop in. I think those are prosecutors. Fast forward, Richard Novak's on. Then Phoebe Moorhead comes in here. Kathy Nestor jumps in the call. Then we get Utah County Jail. Okay, so that's their first appearance. So first time, as far as we know, from the record, and we'd like to have this on the record, since this is a criminal prosecution of Charlie Kirk, we'd like to have this stuff on the record. If you're going to confirm his identity and appearance at your felony court appearance, we want that to be a part of the record. So now this is like the beginning, and Utah County Jail hops in. So you'd imagine the county jail would turn on their camera, confirm that he exists to Judge Tony Graff, and then we fast forward and turn the camera back off, right? Okay, so here we continue to play. Let's see if Utah County Jail turns on their camera at all. Fast forward, going 5 seconds. Camera comes on for that dude. Another attorney, Stacy's on the call. Fast forward, fast forward. Layout. Let's go to grid mode. Pull that up. Nah, I don't like that. Let's do side by side. Nah. That's not any good either. Let's go back to the top. Good call. All right, so we're back now. And now the Utah County Jail has been kicked off the screen. Okay, so they're not there at all. And we're waiting for the judge to come on. Has he confirmed identity behind the scenes? Nothing. Fast forward, fast forward. It's now 5 minutes. So there we go. Judge just comes on. Starts recording. Record is on.
Good afternoon. Court
Case is called.
Now in session.
Cameras come
Calling
on.
case 251-403-576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Will the parties please enter their appearances?
Your Honor, Christopher Ballard and Chad Grunander on behalf of the state.
Your Honor, Kathy Nestor, Richard Novak, and Stacy Visser on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Thank you. Welcome to both prosecution and defense. Mr. Robinson, I understand, is appearing by WebEx. Mr. Robinson, can you hear us?
Here we go.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
No camera.
Good afternoon to you all. We're here on the Tyler James Robinson motion to appear in civilian clothing.
Okay, so a little bit different than the second hearing. At least we heard his voice, but no camera. And remember, the first time that we saw him appear in court, camera was on. They've got cameras. They can turn the cameras on. Now they're not turning the cameras on. Now, the defense, I would say, would make the argument that they don't want the cameras on for whatever reason. They don't want publicity. They don't want to, smear his face all over the place, all over live streams and all over the news and whatever. And every time there's a new photo that comes out and everybody can comment on it and talk about it, right? But the prosecution in this case apparently is not raising a stink about this. Maybe it's common practice in Utah to allow that to happen. But if I'm a prosecutor on the Charlie Kirk case and this dude is being charged in one of the most global stories and assassinations that ever happened, I would want that camera on and I would be screaming about that. Turn the camera on. Everybody wants to see. We don't want conspiracy theorists out there saying, is he even there? Is he even a part of this whole proceeding? Turn the camera on so we can see him. So there's no questions about it. So that nobody has to talk about this stuff. And the judge just, are you there? Yeah, I'm there. That's me. It's me, Tyler Robinson. Like, just be transparent about it. You've already got the cameras on. So the defense, I would imagine, is perfectly thrilled about this. The prosecution is just like, whatever, and allowing it to go on. But they should demand the cameras are on. We want transparency. We want to see what this dude looks like and what the process is from his perspective, just like any other defendant who has to be taken to court for physical personal appearances. And so the judge is going to walk us through the hearing. Let's listen to it. We're going to put it on a little faster speed because this judge is just slow, very slow. So we're going to go 1.5. We're going to listen to it, see if there's anything else interesting on this one.
And without physical restraints at all pretrial hearings. Because of some of the arguments involved in court security protocols, the court held a closed hearing on October 24th, 2025. During that hearing, the parties addressed several related matters. The first, Mr. Robinson's motion to strike the sheriff's response. The second, Mr. Robinson's motion to appear in civilian clothing and without physical restraints. The third, the sheriff's and Mr. Robinson's request to limit or exclude visual recording and photography in the courtroom. And finally, the fourth matter, the state's request to have all non-evidentiary hearings held remotely. The parties have stipulated that the state's request to hold non-evidentiary hearings virtually, as well as the parties' joint request to limit electronic media coverage, both require further briefing. Those issues are not yet ready for the court's decision.
All right, let's pause on that and back that up a bit and turn this speed down just a smidgen. But I believe he said something about a stipulation between the prosecution and the defense.
To hold non-evidentiary hearings virtually, as well as limit or exclude visual recording and photography in the courtroom. And finally, the fourth matter, the state's request to have all non-evidentiary hearings held remotely. The parties have stipulated that the state's request to hold non-evidentiary hearings.
Why is the state requesting remote hearings? Why do they not want to be there in court? This is the biggest case in their state's history, maybe. And they're going to do this all telephonically?
Virtually, as well as the parties' joint request to limit electronic media coverage, both require further briefing.
This is insane. So now the state is going to also support, the prosecutors are also going to support, it sounds like, limiting coverage of the case as well. Why are they trying to cover this case up? Why don't they turn the cameras on? Why are the prosecutors not being asked these questions about why they're not pitching a fit over more access to Tyler Robinson, not less? Are they concerned about jury nullification or something? They want to bury this whole thing under seal so that bad publicity doesn't taint the jury and the jurors can wreck the outcome of the case, call for a mistrial or something like that? Give me a break, all right? Luigi Mangione, they have photographs. They're parading that dude around everywhere. He's got like GQ photos on magazines. His defense attorneys are putting him in outfits and dressing him up so that the libs can salivate over him. Okay. None of that is going to invalidate the jury out there. And this is Utah. Should be a pretty quick and cut and dry conviction in this state that is very red, where somebody got assassinated that leaves a massive blemish on their state. So now the prosecutors are going to stipulate to locking this down, but it requires further briefing.
Those issues are not yet ready for the court's decision. To facilitate that briefing, the court directs as follows. If the state wishes to have all non-evidentiary hearings conducted via WebEx, it must file a separate motion. The court will not rely on prior briefing. The standard time.
Also ridiculous. Why are they not showing up in court? If I am the prosecutor, and I've never been a prosecutor, thank you God, then I would be there every day. It'd be like, let's go there and capture all of the energy surrounding this prosecution to ensure that justice is done. You're on the national stage. You're on the global stage right now. Yes, we just want to call in because I don't want to get dressed and put pants on. Are you kidding me? Get to court. This is a national importance, case of national importance. They're just calling in.
In reply, apply, and the parties must file a request to submit and request a hearing if desired. If the parties seek to limit or
and then we're not going to be able to hear or see from Tyler Robinson ever again because it's all going to be virtual. Of course, he's talking about non-evidentiary hearings. In an evidentiary hearing, you're going to have everybody there. You're going to have witnesses. People are going to present evidence. We call this person, and you can question them and have a conversation about it. But if it's not one of those, if it's one of these hearings, then again, we just get the stupid WebEx with the cameras turned off. And I looked this up earlier today and was trying to find out what their rules are. I found this. I don't know if it's actually current or what, but I did find this. Back during the COVID era, it says it's effective until it is repealed. But this is what they were saying back during COVID, okay? Effective after January 2021, not that old. And this was what they set up for the pandemic. And they've also got rules of criminal procedure that explain as well how you can make a request for telephonic hearings. But remember, attorneys, okay, this is back during COVID until modified by the court, it's effective. Attorneys, you must appear by video. And if you want to appear only by audio, you got to get special permission. And attorneys should turn on their videos when they are ready to proceed with their cases. And when you send this notice to your clients should also follow best practices, right? And be present. For hearings, attorneys must ensure that their witnesses and clients, if there's a substantive hearing going on, can appear by video. See that right there? By video, not audio, by video. Video will be required for any witness who provides testimony and for all criminal defendants who enter a plea or are sentenced. This requirement will only be waived if there's a prior motion or if an emergency accommodation is here. Basically, everybody should act like you're there, physically there. You should turn on your video when you're prepared to have your case call so the judge can see you. Parties and witnesses should remember that the virtual court has the same decorum and the requirements as in-person court. There's a reason if you're charged with felonies, you got to go appear in person because you've been charged with a serious crime and the judge needs to see you there. you should dress appropriately. Find a quiet place to stand and all the things. Make sure that you're ready for this. And these are the rules in Utah. It's common. Show up, turn your camera on. This is a criminal proceeding. You're not just zooming into a college class. So that is just one portion of the rules. And here's more. According to the Utah Rules of Criminal Procedure, the court does have discretion to set a hearing as an in-person hearing, a remote hearing, or a hybrid hearing. So the judge can do this for the rest of the proceedings. And again, I guess we'll never see Tyler Robinson again if they can help it. The preference of the participants is known. And in this case, both sides are like, yeah, sure, we'll lock the whole thing down because of jurors or something. The anticipated hearing length, the number of participants, the burden, the complexity, whether and to what extent documentary or testimonial evidence is going to be presented, and more. All you got to do is request the court allow you to do this. You can do it verbally. Any request needs to be in, if a participant is send a letter in and copy all the parties, and the judge can do it. So they'll probably do it. And these attorneys won't be physically there. The news won't be able to camp out and see people coming and going or ask questions. They're going to lock down the whole stinking case so nobody can see anything. Here's the judge continuing.
Strict electronic media coverage. They may file a joint motion. Again, the court will not rely on prior briefing. That motion must address the factors set forth in Rule 4-401.01 sub 2 of the Utah Rules of Judicial Administration. Standard response and reply times apply, and the parties must file a request to submit once the matter is ripe for decision. The court took under advisement two issues: the motion to strike and the motion to appear in civilian clothing and without restraints. The court now issues its ruling. In regards to the motion to strike the sheriff's response, the prosecution and the sheriff's department filed a joint opposition to the defendant's motion to appear in civilian clothing and without restraints. Mr. Robinson moved to strike the sheriff's portion of that filing, arguing it was procedurally improper because the sheriff is not a party. At the hearing, all agreed that the sheriff's department is not a party in this case. The state and the sheriff's office nevertheless argued that the sheriff may file memoranda as a non-party. Mr. Robinson disagreed, but did not object to the court considering the sheriff's position on security. The court finds that the sheriff's department is not a party to this case, and therefore its joint filing with the prosecution was procedurally improper. Accordingly, defendant's motion to strike the sheriff's response is granted. However, under Rule 3-414 of the Utah Rules of Judicial Administration, the court is required to coordinate courtroom security with the sheriff's department. Consistent with that rule and with the defendant's agreement, the court has considered the substance of the state's opposition and the memorandum prepared by the court security director that was attached to it. Going forward, if either party has a security concern specific to this case, they may present evidence from the sheriff's department by affidavit, declaration, exhibit, or testimony. This order does not limit the sheriff's department's ability to coordinate with the court or otherwise act as authorized by law. Turning to the motion to appear in civilian clothing.
All right. So it sounds like, and the Utah court dockets are as lacking in transparency as everything we've seen here so far. No motions are up there that your boy can pull from the interwebs. There's 3 documents that are still up there: an affidavit, probable cause statement, and one other thing we covered a month ago. And the case filings are not being published by the Utah County Attorney for whatever reason. Nobody wants the documents to be shared easily. And they don't even want us to see Tyler Robinson. And now the state apparently is going to be working to exclude media and to appear telephonically so that they don't have to put their shoes on, because it's a lot of work. So as this continues, we'll see that the next part of the discussion is about the actual clothing. So the attempt to strike the sheriff's essentially memo was granted, but ultimately, I'm not sure the judge is going to incorporate that one way or the other into his final judgment. But he did say that that sheriff's memo can be admissible essentially just for security concerns. Like, I'll take that under consideration. You obviously engage in security, and so we'll consider your opinion, but it's not a part of the response that came from the prosecutors to Tyler Robinson's motion.
And without physical restraints. The parties agree that during trial, a defendant has a right to appear in civilian clothing and that any restraints must be concealed from the jury. Mr. Robinson now seeks to extend those rights to all pretrial proceedings. The court considered each request separately.
And that's normal. In a trial, no handcuffs, civilian clothes because that's very prejudicial, right? If you're sitting there with jurors and they're like, well, I don't know if that guy's innocent or guilty. And you're like, he's sitting there literally in handcuffs and like guards are looking at him like, don't even friggin' move. Then that's going to subliminally impression a juror. So that's normal. But now they want that to be for all of these proceedings, which is interesting because it sounds like they're also saying we don't even want him to appear at all, just telephonic appearances.
In relation to requests to appear in civilian clothing, Mr. Robinson asks to appear in civilian clothing at all pretrial hearings. He argues that the extensive media coverage of this case creates a real risk of prejudice if the public and potential jurors repeatedly see him in jail attire. The state, the sheriff's department, and the court security director opposed the request, arguing that jail clothing assists with safety and identification. The court has balanced these competing concerns. The case has attracted extraordinary public and media attention. Images of Mr. Robinson in jail clothing are likely to circulate widely and influence prospective jurors.
Yeah, that's why probably the judge and the prosecutors, for some stupid reason, are not turning on the camera because we all want to see.
Given the scale of that publicity, the risk of prejudice is significant. However, Mr. Robinson's, let me see here. As previously stated, Mr. Robinson sits before this court presumed innocent, and that presumption remains unless and until each element of every offense charged against him is proved beyond a reasonable doubt. To date, this has not occurred, and the presumption of innocence remains. Balancing these factors, the court finds that Mr. Robinson's right to the presumption of innocence outweighs the minimal inconvenience of permitting civilian attire, and Mr. Robinson shall be dressed as one who is presumed innocent. Accordingly, the defendant's request to appear in civilian clothing for all pretrial proceedings is granted. Defense counsel is directed to coordinate with the jail to ensure that this order is implemented, and the court further orders that if the clothing be provided 72 hours prior to any hearing. To the second request to appear without physical restraints.
And I think that's mirroring Mangione. We haven't been covering that case as much, but in his appearances, he's dressed in civilian clothing. So maybe this judge is trying to match that. But Mangione has been spread all over the place, right? They're not trying to deny any publicity from what we've seen. There's photos of the dude everywhere he comes and goes. So maybe we'll see that at their next hearing, but we may not have very many in-person hearings unless we have evidentiary hearings if they're going to stipulate to telephonic appearances. Why does he need civilian clothes at all if it's just going to be virtual appearances, which it sounds like the state is briefing right now?
Mr. Robinson also requests to appear unrestrained during pretrial proceedings. He argues that visible restraints would prejudice potential jurors, undermine his dignity, and interfere with his ability to communicate with counsel. Rule 3-14 sub 9C of the Utah Rules of Judicial Administration requires that all in-custody defendants be restrained unless otherwise ordered by the court. The court recognizes that Mr. Robinson has no criminal history and no record of misconduct while in custody. However, the charges he faces are extraordinarily serious, carrying potential penalties of life imprisonment or death. The safety of Mr. Robinson, the attorneys, court staff, and the public must remain the court's highest priority. The emotional nature of these proceedings also raise the risk of disruption. Given these factors, the defendant's request to appear without restraint is denied. The court directs the sheriff's department to conduct an individualized assessment and use the least restrictive restraints necessary to maintain safety. If those restraints impede the defendant's ability to communicate with counsel or take notes, counsel may renew the motion. I wish now to also address the decorum and media restrictions. To mitigate any potential prejudice, the court will amend its standing decorum order. The media will be prohibited from photographing or visually recording Mr. Robinson's restraints and from photographing or recording him while entering, exiting, or standing in the courtroom. In making this amendment, the court has considered the factors in Rule 4-401.01 sub 2. This is a high-profile case with strong public interest. Restricting the recording of restraints strikes the proper balance between Mr. Robinson's right to a fair proceeding and the public's right to access and transparency. In conclusion, the court orders as follows. Defendant's motion to strike the sheriff's response is granted. Defendant's motion to appear in civilian clothing is granted. Defendant's motion to appear without restraints is denied. The standing decorum order will be amended to prohibit any visual recording or photography of the defendant's restraints or of the defendant entering or exiting the courtroom. This constitutes the order of the court, and a written order and ruling will be published shortly. Both defense and prosecution have stipulated to vacate the October 30th hearing. Additional time is needed to complete discovery and to file motions addressing whether non-evidentiary hearings should be conducted virtually, whether to impose any blanket restrictions on cameras in the courtroom, and any other motions that may arise. This matter is set to return before the court on January 16th, 2026 at 1 p.m. and again on January 30th, 2026 at 1 p.m. Both hearings will be heard and held in person with Mr. Robinson present to address these issues. And that concludes the order of this court. Counsel, thank you for being here. Mr. Robinson, we'll see you on January 16th and January 30th at 1 p.m. Court is now in recess.
Yeah, we'll see, unless those are converted into telephonic appearances based on the further briefing that is happening right now. So we'll see if he's back. But I guess from now until January, we are not going to have any updates on Tyler Robinson from the courts. And we might have some rulings from the judge that are vacating the in-person proceedings. It doesn't sound like those are evidentiary hearings or trial settings. Maybe they're trial settings, but they'll be back. And the question will be whether they're in person or not. If it's virtual, then maybe they just won't turn the cameras on again, since they're also concerned about Tyler Robinson's pretrial publicity. And it's a strange thing to happen. Remember what this dude got charged with? Murder, aggravated murder, obstruction, victim targeting, all the things. And now, after multiple court proceedings, we've only seen Tyler Robinson one time in court, and that was at the very beginning. So I would like a little bit more transparency, and I do not like where this is headed, I got to tell you. The fact that they're even considering kicking the media out, which he'll probably grant, and probably allow more telephonic appearances so we can just hear from Tyler. Yeah, I'm here. Whatever, man. It's ridiculous. This is the biggest political assassination of my life and many, many people's lives. And we want actual accountability where we can see the defendant going through the process. That's part of justice. Now, here you can see, trying to get our bearing straight if we know what the next court dates are. And we have preliminary hearings, and they're not going to get all that done. Robinson is due back. Both hearings are scheduled for 1 p.m. And we haven't even had the preliminary hearing yet. So this case is just going to be dragged on. And everything we just heard today leads us to believe that they're going to work as hard as possible to lock this thing down. And we're not hearing much objection out of the prosecution on any of this. Haven't seen it. County attorney has not communicated much to us, posted the filings, been transparent about it. And there's strange stuff happening here. So we'll see what comes next. We'll keep our eye on this one. Thank you for joining and subscribing as we do. All right, now, my friends, let's talk about Jack Smith, because he's also freaked out. Yeah, it's weird. I know. Looking at the chat. Charlie, yep, I know. It is weird. And the judge just sat and read a script the whole time, right? All right. Very short proceeding. No real conversation about much of anything. And we're back in January. All right, so we got more. Jack Smith is freaked out. You can see he's trying to negotiate the terms of his surrender. He had this post burning away in his pocket, courtesy of Marsha Blackburn, a senator. She said, Jack Smith wants assurances, in quote, that he won't be punished in exchange for testifying about his spying scheme before Congress. He is out of his mind if he thinks that we will let him off scot-free. If we need to subpoena him, then that's exactly what we'll do. Ooh, Jack, you're busted, boy. You can come down and communicate openly, and maybe they'll show some leniency, but probably not, because he belongs in jail. Now, a story came out, an exclusive from the Washington Post, where they say Jack Smith botched everything, and we're starting to piece together just how weak his evidence actually was. Apparently was relying on Mike Pence and a book or something. And he made a bonehead decision. The exclusive here explains it, but he wanted to go be prosecuting in Florida. And many people in the office said, are you crazy? You're going to lose in Florida. And he went down to Florida anyways. Here's what happened. From the Washington Post, with all their sources, somebody said to Jack Smith, are you effing insane? Story begins. Federal prosecutor David Raskin, not Jamie Raskin, that loser congressman, was expecting that the criminal case he had helped build against Trump would be filed in D.C., which is the centerpiece of the Death Star, when a colleague bumped into him with the surprising news. Their boss, Jack Smith, he wanted to bring the case in Florida. Someone said, "Are you effing insane?" Raskin blurted out in the hallway. He'd been investigating Trump for the classified documents, and he thought, this is crazy. If we go to Florida, Judge Cannon's going to get the case. Trump appointed her, and she's going to throw our case out, which she did. Smith and his top, so that dude was right. Smith and his top deputies had concluded that trying the case in Florida actually put them on firmer legal ground, reducing the risk of the most serious charges being overturned on appeal. Yeah, because they were going to try to say that the classified documents were taken from Washington, D.C. So the crime occurred there because the documents left that jurisdiction, but then they landed in Florida. And of course, some of the charges were, possession, retention, having the documents at Mar-a-Lago. So that's the stronger case because the documents are there. He took them there. It's not that you remove them from their location. That's one set of charges. You took the information, but you're in possession of them. And remember, he got all the different counts. That's nuclear codes, and this is some other map of some foreign ally or whatever. And the list of the documents was part of the charges. So now they say, we have to charge in Florida, so we're going down there. Members of their team had initially calculated that there's 1 in 6 chances that our case is going to land in Cannon's courtroom, and it did. Smith said to this person, "I'm not worried about Florida," said Jack Smith. That's a quote. That's a funny quote from Jack. "I'm not worried about Florida." Come on, Jack. His whole case got dismissed in Florida. Eileen Cannon said, "You're not a real boy, Jack," and kicked him out. But the early calculation of the odds that Cannon would get the case turned out to be wrong. 1 in 6, she got it. This behind the scenes account from the Post reveals new details about the inner workings of Smith's highly secretive team and filled with criminals as he pushed it to complete a historic investigation in record time, blah, blah, blah. This account is drawn from interviews conducted for the book Injustice, which comes from senior officials, federal agents, and a bunch of people. Now, his decision, Jack Smith's decision, to bring the documents case in Florida, rooted in an extensive internal legal analysis, ran counter to the others. But the ultimate collapse of the case contributed to the tumultuous election. Trump succeeded at the polls by saying they weaponized the DOJ because they did. Now, Trump's appointees have upended the Justice Department, firing scores of prosecutors and agents who worked on these cases. And some of his political adversaries, aka the criminals, are now being prosecuted. Rewinding the clock a bit, they tell us, on August 8th, 2022, remember when those federal agents that had permission to use deadly force, when they executed a search warrant? Yeah, we do. They had obtained security footage that there were boxes inside Trump's bathroom. Trump immediately condemned it. He called it an attack. It absolutely was. He was the president. Those were his documents. He had all the power in the world to possess those. In the weeks that followed, Garland began preparing to name a special prosecutor. Trump was already talking about running, and then, of course, he did. As Garland considered who to appoint, Jack Smith came out of the gutter, a then 53-year-old former prosecutor in the DOJ who was working at The Hague in Europe. Smith had a reputation for decisiveness and fairness. And in November, Garland called on him. Garland knew that Smith, Merrick, had just been in a bicycle accident. Fell over just like Joe Biden did, but had no idea how severely he was injured. He's a triathlete. He was in the hospital, and his leg was like a noodle. Oh, Jack. Trump's announcement the next day said that he would seek another term, and then Garland got right back to Jack. They said, "Jack, we need you." He had an operation, was on powerful painkillers, which explains some things. He discharged himself from the hospital against doctors' orders. He said, "I have to lead this corrupt prosecution." He went home cold turkey and stopped the drugs or something. So then, after he got appointed, he couldn't fly, could barely leave his home. There was a hospital bed by his family's kitchen table. All right. Now, to save time, says this article, instead of assembling a new team, which would have required a lot of work, he relied on more than a dozen prosecutors and FBI agents already working on the 2 cases from inside the DOJ. Yeah. Remember, he was supposed to be a special prosecutor who was going to do his own investigation so it wasn't biased and partisan against Trump. Never happened. They sold it like that, and then they just gave him the corrupt case file. And he just took it and ran with it. And do you know where that corrupt case file came from? Dun, 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 dun. Christopher Wray. Yeah, and Merrick Garland and Lisa Monaco. See that LM right there? Lisa Monaco. This is a memorandum for the Attorney General that was sent back April 4th, 2022, right around the same time we're talking about. FBI, U.S. Department of Justice. This goes over to Merrick Garland. He's in charge at the time. And all of this got dropped in our laps right by Chuck Grassley. He says, look what I got. Just received this document from the DOJ. It's proof that Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and Lisa Monaco, Merrick, I think, was just kind of a figurehead. Lisa was really running the show. And FBI Director Chris Wray, all personally approved Arctic Frost, which was the investigation into Trump. The investigation unleashed unchecked government power at the highest levels. They all approved it. Then they brought in Jack Smith to just cover the whole thing up like he was independent, and he never was. He inherited everything. Here is the signed document from Christopher Wray. Christopher A. Wray, right there. CAW. LM. Lisa Monaco. Here's what Wray said. From Wray to his real boss, Lisa, who then is going to, you'll notice here at the bottom, Lisa says, hey, Merrick, I recommend you approve. Merrick's like, that's good because I can't read anymore. So signed by LM 4522. And here's what it says. Okay, this is Christopher Wray from the FBI. They say your approval is requested as soon as possible. Due to the nature of this sensitive investigative matter, the SIM, we may not open a full investigation without your permission, Merrick. They write, following 2020, Trump tried to commit fraud with fraudulent certificates of electors who came from Arizona, Georgia, and Michigan. They're called alternative electors and more. And so Washington now seeks to open up a full investigation. We've got articulable facts that there was a conspiracy to obstruct Congress and the certification, which are allowed to challenge elections. In America, we have a whole system for it. Following the 2020 election, fraudulent certificates were sent. Those were the fake, the fraudulent electors cases, which happened all over the place. Trump got indicted in one of those in Fannie Willis's district. On December 14th, Pennsylvania did something. Several other individuals closely associated with Trump, blah, blah, blah. And then they said, even there was a January 6th scenario. Trump drafted a memo that said, well, what happened if Congress would have objected? What happens if there was an actual, Congress couldn't object. We were watching it all happen. It started in the Senate. What happens if they actually do that? Trump had a memo. There was a plan for that. Lawyers were involved. Oh my gosh. They called it all criminal activities and a conspiracy and indicted everybody. All of it directed by Christopher Wray and Lisa Monaco and approved right there by Merrick Garland. It looks like MG in the House. Merrick Garland approved it. That was the investigation that then got passed off to Jack Smith, who was allegedly the independent prosecutor. Of course, he never was. He was a political hack. You can just follow the bouncing ball. And they lied to all of us about that. And the media did the best job of that. Now, he then assembled them. And all of these people, J.P. Cooney, traveled with Smith to Amsterdam. And in one meeting, Smith proposed a March deadline to decide whether to indict Trump. Jay Bratt, the Florida Oompa Loompa, a top national security prosecutor, who's also corrupt, in my opinion, for trying to attack Stanley Woodward and get his client Walt Nauta to flip on him in order to get a judgeship position in D.C. Jay piece of crap. Says here, Bratt suggested 6 months. Smith's nodded and sought to have the team hold firm onto that timetable. He said, here's the date. And we're triaging to get that. Cleared by doctors to travel because he can't ride a bike. He pushed his team to keep up the pace. They had to race this thing through. By early 23, prosecutors and FBI agents were now working to set Trump up. Remember, Trump was cooperating with the archivist. Yeah, come on in, visit. Look at the skiff in Mar-a-Lago. It's all secure. As they were there, they were spying on him, essentially, to charge him with crimes for having his own documents. Some salivated at the wow factor this could have if the case went to trial. They're all giddy and excited. Prosecutors got a recording of a book writer who was interviewing Trump. In Jack's office, members of Jack's team listened to the interview with mouths agape. All these dork prosecutors huddled around Jack's office like, I got this new tape of the president. So pathetic. Repeatedly accused Milley, Pentagon commander, of proposing to attack Iran and saying the U.S. military has war plans to prove it. Trump was shaking. Remember, we heard that audio. These are the papers. This was done by the military and given it to me. And, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. I could have made this public, but it's still his document. Smith often spent from the morning till night holding meetings around the conference table. Increasingly, he conferred privately, mostly Cooney and other attorneys. From the integrity section, those not invited to his office saw Smith as a one-way street. He wanted information, but he wouldn't share it. He siloed management. Some prosecutors who were accustomed to being relied on were not. In February, Smith told a small group of advisors that he had instructed a deputy to begin drafting a memo, an internal document that outlined the legal reasoning and the strengths of the case. Still hadn't made a final decision. But then he talked to James Pierce, we read a lot of his filings, to analyze whether charges should be filed in D.C. or Florida and how to bring about the case. Now, they have discretion to bring charges where the crime occurred. You can't bring it anywhere you want. There's got to be some nexus to the criminal activity. Pierce put together an analysis that convinced Smith that Florida was the best choice. But before Smith briefed Garland, word of the shift spread across his team. Somebody on Jack's team, Raskin, heard about it from the hallway from Jay Bratt. What? Florida? Yeah, Jack has decided. Now, the case law generally favored the prosecutors in Florida. That's where the heart of the case occurred. That's where the conduct occurred. The documents were there. Smith had talked it over with his circle. They all agreed. Yeah, it makes sense. I'll explain it to you, says Bratt. We can't charge him with possession of the documents in D.C. if he's not in D.C. with the documents. Raskin disagreed. He says, we're going to get blown out in Florida. Raskin was right. Raskin, 59, had an impressive batting average in trials, but Smith didn't. Raskin soon got a copy of his analysis, and he said, so what? He says, prosecutors make these decisions all the time, but he said, this is an existential threat to the case, and he was right. Prosecution memos are rarely seen by the public, but the first draft was shared, and along with the discussion of the charges, the memo laid out the pros and cons. Prosecutors believed they had ample evidence at Mar-a-Lago. He had willful retention. Remember that? How many times we said that? Prosecutors also felt they had somewhat less convincing proof that he broke the law when taking the records out of. Okay, because if he left while he was the president and the time, like the documents got moved before the clock struck 12, there's no crime there. He's the president. He can move his documents wherever he wants. So when the documents were already located in Florida and the presidency expired, then it became a crime, and retention is the only charges they could bring. They didn't want to because, gosh, they know that if Florida is not D.C. and it's a slam dunk in D.C., you get judges like Chutkin, born in Jamaica. That was because of a moving company had trucked a portion of the boxes during 3 days earlier, okay? When he was clearly the president, not even at the end zone. By contrast, in Florida, extensive evidence, the documents there, they thought the convictions, we can't even charge him in D.C. or the convictions won't stand. But this is a big case. If Cannon gets the case, we're in trouble. And it's not, Cannon didn't do anything. Cannon made the right judgment. She said Jack Smith is illegally appointed and illegally apportioned. He used a ton of money that we never got questions about. Hopefully we get some of that back from Jack. They should go get it from him. But they spent a bunch of money that wasn't theirs to spend. He was illegally appointed. After the team left, Garland asked his staff to stress test Smith's legal reasoning. Well, why can't we bring it in D.C., says Merrick. Somebody had to explain it to him. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, no, I know why we should do this way, but why don't you tell me why? So I know you know why. And then bring that memo back to me. But before a final decision was made, the team members realized they'd failed to account for a key factor, the judge's caseloads. And now 1 in 3 that Cannon gets the case. Then all of a sudden, charges get filed. They come back. We got Cannon. Oh, no. Second week of May, Smith's documents team flew to Miami, checked into a hotel under the name of a phony corporation because they're criminals. They have to hide out, you know. They don't want anyone to know that they're there. And they started to present their evidence to a grand jury operating in secret. It took 5 weeks. Reporters didn't figure out that they were even there until the team asked the grand jury to indict him. Then June 8th, grand jury votes to indict Trump. It was Trump who broke the news, taking the opportunity to frame it on his terms. He says, yep, Corrupt Biden administration charging me with crimes. I'm an innocent man. And it turned out he was. A thunderstorm was rolling over Miami. And Smith's team learned that the case got assigned to Judge Cannon. Dun, dun, dun. Brat called Olson. You're not going to believe it. We got Cannon. We're screwed. Brat also notified Smith, who was back in Washington. Smith didn't really react, but thanked him for the update. And they know, like, we have so many rigged judges. If we get Cannon, she's not one of our rigged judges. We're going to be in big trouble. Turns out that was a good call. But thankfully, Cannon got the case. Then the inner circle started calling each other. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. Garland, though, was nervous, staffers sensed. Why? Why, Merrick? Why are you nervous? Don't you have tremendous faith in our justice system and all the judges are the same and no judge should be judged against the other judge and the system will work itself out? Yeah. They say, no, Garland was nervous because she began issuing unexpected rulings and was jamming up the government's case. Brat poked his head into Jack's office. Brat said, "Hey, Jack, it's me, Jay. This is really not good," he said. Jack said, we'll see. We don't know yet. Okay, give her a chance. She might do what we want and be as corrupt as Chutkin. Smith seemed to recognize the seismic shift in the case, though. That Friday, he went from office to office. He was giving everybody pep talks. I know we needed a corrupt judge. We didn't get one. I know we needed one, but we didn't. Some of them were despondent. That's these people. We needed a rigged judge for our rigged case. They thought they lost the case because of the judge. They needed a rigged judge. He told them, don't forget the hard work that you got with all your evidence. We got to keep our focus on our hope for the best. What followed was a big battle. The judge embraced a long shot legal bid and appointed, and it's not a long shot. He was not legitimate. To justify her decision, she cited other Supreme Court precedent. We saw it. After the shock of the ruling and their case got dismissed, they shelved trial prep and then were researching her ruling. The collapse of the classified documents case, as this article as we come to the end, was tantamount to vindication. We celebrated. It was glorious. We covered the whole thing. It also emboldened Trump in his drive for revenge. What are you talking about? Jack Smith was illegitimately appointed. Jay Bratt improperly tried to bribe a defense attorney working on the case to flip his client. Jack Smith was not a special counsel, illegally appointed, illegally apportioned, who inherited his case from other corrupt FBI agents like Timothy Thibault. In August, Smith and his team were finishing up their appeal. They presented the evidence to the Solicitor General and says, can we have Cannon removed? Can we have her removed? Can we get rid of the judge? Smith's team believed Cannon made decisions that strained the law because they're used to working hand in hand in their corrupt entourage. She approved the appeal of Cannon's ruling, but rejected Smith's plan to seek to remove her, saying, you don't have a strong enough case to do it. Smith decided not to overrule her, and the appeal remained pending, but guess what? Trump won the election, and Jack Smith got obliterated, and hopefully he's indicted soon. Now, more comes out. Jonathan Karl over at ABC got his hands on some notes from Mike Pence, apparently, and he wrote about it over here and talked about it to ABC News. They said that Pence said, who made up the bulk of Jack's case in many ways, you'll go down as a wimp, says this new book. And according to court filings, had this case gone to trial, Jack Smith was going to use Mike Pence's notes. Mike Pence scribbled those in on his day planner. Trump called me a wimp. Meh, I'm not a wimp. As evidence to the document the hours before Trump allegedly directed a mob to storm the Capitol, which was all fake, never happened. You'll go down as a wimp, Trump told Pence. Trump was right. Where is Mike Pence? About his decision not to block Biden certification. If you do that, I made a mistake 5 years ago, Pence wrote Trump. And the exclusive details are in Jonathan Karl's new book. Here are the notes from Mike Pence. The notes also include what appears to be a scribble of an angry emoji after Trump told Pence, you listened to the wrong people. Here's Mike Pence's notes. Very sloppy. And there's a frowny face right there. You listened to the wrong people. I'm sad. I'm not going to change my mind. Frowny face. After that, something, it doesn't take couple to breach the law, blah, blah, blah. All right, so those are Mike Pence's notes, and Jack Smith was going to introduce those at trial. Even his vice president, there it is. There's the little frowny face emoji. Mike Pence is mad. Among the terabytes of data that Jack Smith gobbled up was a forensic copy of Trump's own phone documenting his digital activity. Got Trump's cell phone, too. The materials were never publicly released. And in a final report, Garland made public Jack Smith in his little, book report because he was so mad that he needed to write a report. Carl reports that this might have been some of the strongest evidence, which is very weak, on the January 6th case. But Jack resigned. Trump won the election, has now taken over the White House. And Mike Pence has, in fact, gone down as a wimp. Womp, womp. Sorry, Mike Pence. So we saw that Garland directed this, courtesy of the Biden administration. Jack Smith spying on the senators. And now Jack apparently trying to negotiate his way out of any consequences for his criminal actions. Marsha Blackburn, the senator, says, there have to be consequences for Jackie Boy.
Stored records. There is no reason he should have done this. And we do know that it was a spying mission. It was a violation of our First and Fourth Amendment rights, a violation of the Speech and Debate Clause, the Stored Records Act, and the separation of powers. And of course, we're going to move forward to take steps against him. I sent AG Bondi a letter asking for him, Jack Smith, to be referred to the Office of Professional Conduct over at the DOJ. And we look forward to moving forward with that and also seeking to have him disbarred in the 2 states where he is licensed to practice law.
Yeah, for spying on senators and for leading a corrupt office with people like Jay Bratt, who were committing, I would argue, crimes, in my opinion, when he was trying to bribe Stanley Woodward to have Walt Nauta flip on Trump and make their case for them. And they were all despondent when they didn't get a rigged judge because they're big babies who were bringing a big fake case. Now consequences are coming, and we're hopeful that Congress stays on it. They are as mad as we've ever seen them. They got their phone spied on. Lindsey Graham especially is a little bit off these days. And now Marsha saying there will be consequences. We'll keep our eye on the Jack Smith saga. Hopefully indictments coming soon. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. And now, my friends, we've got one final update on the day. And here we go. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche now warning California politicians, if you're going to be attacking our federal agents, there will be consequences for you. This one came out from Todd Blanche, was followed up by Pam Bondi and Todd out there communicating this new standard to these politicians. Todd wrote this. He said, California politicians want to arrest federal agents for enforcing federal law. Well, we just sent them a letter. Stand down or face prosecution. No one threatens our agents. No one will stop us from making America safe again. Gavin Newsom, punk, got this letter. It says, hey, federal agents work tirelessly every day, Gavi. Despite receiving no pay because the Democrats have shut our government down, they're still putting themselves in harm's way to keep Americans safe. But rather than supporting them, California politicians like Nancy Pelosi, Brooke Jenkins, have called for local law enforcement agents to arrest federal agents and officers for enforcing federal laws. The DOJ views any arrests of our officers to be both illegal and futile. Numerous federal laws prohibit interfering with this, all cited accordingly. And now, before departments and agencies and others, don't even try to interfere with us with threats of force or else. And further, the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution also precludes federal officers from being held on state criminal charges, saying the DOJ will investigate and we are going to prosecute any state or local official who violates these federal statutes or directs or conspires others to violate them as well. And so accordingly, you, Gavin, are hereby directed to preserve all written electronic communications and others related to any attempts or efforts to impede or to obstruct federal law enforcement officials. We urge you and other Californians to publicly abandon this apparent criminal conspiracy, which is what it is. They're conspiring with illegal invaders to stop threatening law enforcement and to prioritize the safety of your citizens, not the illegals. In the meantime, federal agents and officers will continue to enforce federal law and will not be deterred by the threat of arrest by California authorities who have abdicated their duty to protect their constituents. Signed by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and sent over to Gavin Newsom and others in the sanctuary state of California. Now, while all this is happening, we also saw another individual was arrested for making direct threats to Pam Bondi, and we've got the affidavit queued up from his criminal charges. But the guy's name is Tyler Maxon Avalos, 29. A tipster alerted the FBI that this dude put a $45,000 hit out on Pam Bondi. And we're learning more about this dude courtesy of this affidavit. Coming in from Caleb Jerkison out in Minnesota. He says, I am an FBI agent. Let me tell you about this maniac who put a hit on Pam. I've been here since June of 24. And I'm currently assigned in Minneapolis. A lot of experience. I do a lot of work. I investigate violent crimes, seizure, arrest warrants, lots of activity, look at domestic terrorism, trafficking, burglary, fraud, all the things. Now, this affidavit is not the full story, but it's just enough here to charge Tyler Maxon with committing a crime for interstate transmission of a threat to injure another. Based on my personal knowledge, and more will be coming, they tell us. On October 9th, 2025, a known and identified TikTok user from Detroit, Michigan, submitted a report, oh, this is a good person, to the FBI regarding a threatening post against Pam Bondi. The TikTok user reported the threat as a murder for hire of U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. The TikTok user reported that the threatening post was, quote, imposing a hit on Pam Bondi for $45,000 and posting it on TikTok. His username is liminal void slip or liminal voids lip, maybe. The FBI obtained screenshots of the TikTok threatening post and the user page, which is both depicted below, and you see it right here from this dude right there, whoever that is. Wanted, Pam Bondi, reward, $45,000, dead or alive, preferably dead with a bullseye right on her forehead. These people are sick. Cough, cough. When they don't serve us, then what? Question mark from this psychopath maniac. And a couple likes on that, 6 likes. Yeah, people are like, yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, we like that. And then 7 comments. Somebody bookmarked it and somebody shared it with somebody else. Wow, nice people. So here's his story. Here's his background. Wacko is his name. And you can see he's got a little bit of a cover up on the face, so we don't have a good identity. Following 110, 79 followers, not a big account. Make John Brown proud, actually acoustic, supporting Save the Children. Except, I guess, Pam's children or something. So that was his TikTok account. The affidavit continues. Says, as depicted above, the threatening post has a picture. Was that a smoke alarm? Am I being invaded by the FBI? I don't know what that noise was. I think that might be a smoke alarm. Let me check on that real quick. I'll be back. Sounds like something is going off. 1 second. Okay, the house is not burning down. And it's not beeping anymore. Is that a battery alert? All right, it's not going off right now. So let's finish this segment before it starts beeping at us. Sorry about that. I thought we might have a fire or something. But the house is not burning down. So that's good news. Now we're back. We go back to the document. Where were we? Yes, we read through the social media post encouraging Pam's death. And now your Affiant also noted he has his name as Wacko. That's his username. And that is probably, accurate. Now, I recognize this as a symbol for anarchy. See that A right there? The Anarchist A. Now, additionally, the suspect and their TikTok also had a link to the Anarchist cookbook, the Anarchist FAQ book that was pinned to his page. I look it up, and in my experience, anarchism is a philosophy that seeks to abolish all institutions and perpetuate that do perpetuate authority, coercion, eliminate the state, eliminate the capitalists, and all the things. Now, these advocates want the replacement of the state, and they want voluntary free associations. I'm sure they do. Now, FBI agents, we got an EDR request. We submitted an emergency disclosure request to TikTok through their online portal for getting information. They asked for info about liminal voids lip. TikTok responded to the EDR. They said, well, here's everything you need to know. The device used to sign up was a Samsung Galaxy, and he signed up 9/7/2025. To sign up the suspect user account, 9:15 a.m., sign up IP address 73. Additionally, TikTok reported the sign up platform used was Google. There was an email address called screamingmeowvoid@gmail. So now they're backtracing this dude through the tubes. Detroit FBI agents then submitted another EDR to Google and to Comcast. They say, who's this dude? We got this email address and an IP address used, and who is it? Then Google responded and gave numerous IP logins. As recently as 10/3/25, the subscriber name was listed as Gray. The device and account identifiers revealed the device had user emails that included Screaming Meow Void and, Tyler Avalos, 1995 @gmail. Your Affiant notes the second Gmail address corresponds to his first name, last name, and year of birth, all identified right there. Thank you, Google. Additionally, so they go, oh, well, no, it's this guy, but he also has this account. They're both the same dude. So here's his other emails, AKAs. Additionally, the same device was the Samsung that matched the TikTok info. Now, Comcast also responded. They said, yeah, here's the IP address. And that IP, it comes from this dude, one of our subscribers called Tyler Avalos. Didn't use a VPN. With phone number 612 something, 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 something. Also located in St. Paul, Minnesota. So we then ran a check of the state supervision records for Avalos and learned his present record shows him living here at an apartment. FBI agents then confirmed with Comcast that this address provided by Comcast was the service address. This address is the billing address. FBI agents conducting surveillance, however, observed him, Avalos, the alleged person, exiting that address. And we also observed the name T. Avalos on the mailbox inside the apartment. We also checked his criminal history. He's got a multi-state conviction history, including a felony stalking conviction in Dakota County, a 2016 felony third-degree battery from Polk County, Florida, and a misdemeanor domestic assault from Dakota, which appears to have been reduced in a strangulation charge from felony, so a misdemeanor, a felony dropped down to misdemeanor. And anytime you do a little strangulation, there's a propensity of killing somebody, so they usually aggravate those into felonies, whereas a regular assault's generally a misdemeanor if it's not causing serious bodily injury. But they'll plead those down. That's what happened here. Now, the actual phone number are anonymized for privacy reasons. Thank you for that, Caleb. Now, based on the information, we think this is the guy. We got him, Caleb Jerkison, Special Agent FBI, submitting that. And Pam Bondi, now one criminal lunatic safer since this dude is getting off the streets. So we got some reporting on this and other stories. In Arizona, there was another maniac who apparently tried to ram some ICE agents with his vehicle, putting them in the hospital. Here's a report from Channel 3 in Arizona.
When ICE agents here in Avondale tried to stop a car with a man or two men that they were interested in. Homeland Security says this all started when those two officers tried to stop that car. They say the driver then kept going to their home, which is in this area here in Avondale. Homeland says when they got to that home, the two people in that car rammed into the officer's car. They got out and ran inside, which created this barricade situation. Now, eventually, ICE agents, we were told, arrested who they were looking for. When ICE agents...
And the opposition to just the simple enforcement of the law and the deportation of illegal aliens is now getting a response from the DOJ. Here's what Todd Blanche said about this. If you're going to be attacking ICE agents, you're in big trouble.
What the Congresswoman did yesterday, what the governor of Illinois said yesterday, does nothing but harm this country. You cannot touch federal agents when they're doing their job. And that's something that they know. It's something that we reminded them of last night, because if you do, you're committing a crime. And the amazing thing about what happened is yesterday, President Trump announced and formally launched the Homeland Security Task Force. This is, in our modern history, the single largest effort by law enforcement to combat narco-terrorists and to get the scourge and the drug dealers out of this country. In just 60 days, we've arrested over 3,200 drug dealers and either gotten them out of this country or put them in jail. On that same day, you have Pelosi, you have other congresswomen, you have a congressman from New York, and you have the governor of Illinois not praising that, not thanking President Trump, but saying that federal law enforcement agents should be arrested. That's the best example of the difference between what this administration is doing and what the Democrats want done. And it's sad, and I feel bad for our federal law enforcement and their families and their wives and their husbands and their children when their mom goes to work every day putting their life on their line, and they have governors and leaders in the Democrat Party suggesting they should be arrested.
He didn't
That's
just
disgusting.
say that.
Yeah, because they care more about their illegal alien invader constituents than they do about American citizens who are actually serving their country and enforcing the law. Here's Pam Bondi, who is commenting on the letter that went out saying, you guys better stand down or we're going to investigate you for criminal conspiracy against federal agents.
They got these letters today in California because they cannot impede a federal investigation. They cannot impede federal officers doing their jobs. They're out there risking their lives every single day and night to keep the people of California safe. Yet these lawmakers are insane. They're truly insane by what they're doing. And Donald Trump is not going to put up with it. We are going to protect our men and women in blue. We're going to protect all of our law enforcement agents, and these politicians aren't going to get away with it anymore. They got these letters.
Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, the DOJ, pushing back on the Nancy Pelosi's and the Gavin Newsoms and the JB Pritzkers, PB&J Pritzker, who are all out there saying that this is like a new Nazi internment or something, and that Trump is a dictator. We know the truth. They are serving their constituency, which is filled with non-American non-citizens, at the expense of their brothers and sisters who are American citizens. And fortunately, we've got a DOJ who is standing firm and saying, we're going to come after you. Looking at the politicians and others, we'll see what comes next on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, what a great stream it has been. Happy Monday. I hope your week has been outstanding thus far. We're just getting started. Happy to be back in the chair and hang in. If you're just joining us, here's what we covered today. Strange stuff happening in the Charlie Kirk case. We listened to the hearing today. We've only seen this dude one time, essentially, since he's been charged. We went through, looked at the preceding court dates, seeing him on his initial appearance. Then we didn't see him in the second proceeding, cameras off. Then today we have cameras off again. And we have arguments and conversations about the filings that are happening, talking about essentially locking the case down, right? Sealing it from external media, doing telephonic appearances so that he doesn't even have to travel for any other pretrial conferences that are non-evidentiary. And then the next court dates that are coming up, which might also be continued or converted, are going to be in January. So a lot of this just being kicked down the road, and we're, pretty irritated about that. If you're prosecutors, I would expect you to be in court. I would expect you to have arguments to turn his camera on so that we can validate that he's there, that he looks like what we expect him to look like, that he's not getting beaten, that he's actually in a jail facility and all these things. Because otherwise, you get conspiracy theories and people ask, where is this dude who shot Charlie Kirk in a nationwide tragedy and a globally covered news story, just kind of gone with the wind? So we'll see what happens. And of course, we're going to keep our eye on this one. Then we talked about Jack Smith and how freaked out Jack Smith is. His attorneys are now reaching out to Marsha Blackburn and saying, please don't hurt us. We want to come and talk to you, but we don't want to get in trouble after we admit all of our crimes to you. So we'll see what they work out. And maybe Jack Smith will flip. We want somebody to flip. Jack Smith would be a big one to flip. He can implicate everybody. And we'll just give him 20 years instead of 1,000 or whatever. And we can put him out in a double wide down by the river. So we talked about that. Lots of Jack Smith stuff today. An exclusive story over from the Washington Post and more exclusive stuff from Mike Pence's notes that are being shared by ABC News. We talked about all of it. But Grassley also revealed to us that the Trump investigation was approved at the highest levels by the Biden administration, seen here on document in written form by Lisa Monaco and by Merrick Garland. They were the ones who opened up Arctic Frost, handed the whole thing off from their corrupt FBI agents who hated Trump, handed it off to Jack Smith, got on the media, sold it to the country as a special counsel, independent counsel investigation, and it was all a political hatchet job from the beginning. Then we talked about Bondi and the DOJ telling the sanctuary states to stand down or else they'll be investigated for conspiracy. Also saw Pam Bondi now a little bit safer since some maniac who was saying she should be dead and posted $45,000 reward over on TikTok has been caught. And so we're going to keep our eye on all of this and more, my friends. But now it's time to hear from you. And happy Monday. I hope your weekend was as amazing as mine was. And we're glad that you're here and with us. Let's see what you have to say about all of this on the show. We got some great comments warming up over here as the screen loads. And thank you for sending these in, my friends. All right, this is a photo. This is a topless photo. We have a no nipple rule on this show, but I have to. This is a photo of Governor Pritzker in Chicago. Here's what it looks like right here. Trump took my food stamps. There's JB Pritzker right there. Trump took my food stamps. You don't need any more, Pritzker. All right, what's up? Leaf Brojan. What's up, Leaf? Thank you, Leaf, for becoming a supporter. We'll have an after party and see you in just a little bit here in a second. Steel Manning, what's up? If AFGE, the big government unions, had any guts, they'd call for a federal strike. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work, though. Federal strike. They'd rather just have the federal spigots turned back on so that they could get paid indefinitely from the federal government. What is this going on here? Hey, they're garbanzo beans, I think. What's up, George Garbanzo? George Garbanzo, what's up? Thanks for being a membo. George says, hey, congratulations, my friend. Hoping nothing but the best for you and Alexis. Praying you are blessed with abundance and peace in your life together. Looking forward to seeing little Robs running around. Me too, George. Thank you for that. What a nice comment. Yeah, I feel very blessed. I feel very blessed. We were surrounded by our family and our friends. We were tons of love, all good energy. It was like a big Airbnb at this place in Jerome. It's called the Little Daisy. Highly recommend it. It was awesome. I mean, the views, the atmosphere, the ambiance was great. And we had a lot of love there. And it was like, it was an old mining house for like a whole, I don't know, like dorm of miners. And they converted it into a giant Airbnb. And so our family and friends just showed up and like everybody was instantly like, hey, you know, many of them didn't know each other, but it was just awesome. So it was great. Yeah. Thank you for that, George. Very nice comment. And I hope you're blessed as well, my friends and everybody. What's up? Mizzy M. Yeah, Candace Owens, Mizzy M says, has been hot on this trail. I didn't really watch Charlie K or Candace much before, but I follow her on Spotify now, and I can't unsee what I see. I don't know where Candace has gone the last week, but every other post, I think she's back today, every other posting on my Facebook page states a Candace conspiracy. So naturally, I think she's right because the FBI, CIA, FBI bots are on fire. Go Candace and stay safe. Yeah, she has revealed a lot of stuff and some very interesting stuff. And the one thing that stands out to me was that text message from Andrew Colvett that she released. Like, whoa, okay. So, she's got some inside scoop and some inside details. And we appreciate the work that she's doing on it. And I know she's getting a lot of criticism and a lot of flack, but we enjoy the conversation. I think you can comment on other people's opinions or their facts, or their presentation, their theories, without necessarily castigating the person behind those theories, right? If anybody has a problem with her theories, just address the theories. But many so-called conspiracy theories have proven to be true, and part of the having the conversation is how you reach the truth. And I appreciate that she is holding the tension on this thing, man, like nobody else. So we do appreciate it. And again, we haven't gone into a lot of speculative territory because we like to look at the court documents and the facts of the case. And that's what we did today. And I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson is not there in jail. He probably is. And there's probably nothing weird about anything that's going on, but we just want to see his face just to confirm that. Why are they hiding him? And why is the state going to be stipulating into some telephonic hearings? That doesn't make any sense to me. So when you start to see those things and they start to add up, then people come up with theories to fill in those gaps. And if they don't want those theories to occur, then they should just be more transparent about the case. The county attorney should post every document online. They did that for the Trump cases. In New York, they did. They posted not all the motions. They should have, but they posted a bunch of the motions on the docket, right? Why are we not seeing this? Why is it all, buried under layers of access? And now it's going to be locked down even further. I bet it is. Just wait for the judge. Doan says, Judge Molasses granted all motions from the defense because we all know Tyler's going down. And it's like, pre-trial publicity is what you're worried about. You're going to give us that argument. Yeah, Trump never got any of those benefits. And most other defendants don't. So why are we being, extra gratuitous with some of that stuff here, such that it comes at the expense of transparency? I'm fine if they put him in civilian clothes. Okay, fine. That's fine. Don't, monitor the handcuffs and stuff. Okay, that's fine. I think it's a little gratuitous, but it's also, I'm not going to mince words about it, but just turn the cameras on. Like, anybody else would come to court. We'd be able to physically see them. Turn the cameras on so that we can see him. And they didn't, probably because he's not in civilian clothes and they wanted to flush this issue out. Or maybe not. Why'd they show us him in his suicide vest in the first one if they're so concerned about it? Because it's the first one. And then the defense came in and said, we don't want to have him on camera. And the prosecutors over there, I'm mad at them. Like, I'm not mad at the defense. Of course they're going to ask for that. The prosecutor's like, well, okay, just leave the camera. No, until the ruling is established, pitch a fit over that. I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I think all the evidence points to Tyler, and there's gobs of discovery. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of it. Londo, what's up? Hey, congratulations, Rob and Alexis. Thank you, Londo. May your marriage be the last one for you both. Yeah, that's the plan for sure. In the future, hopefully well into the future, your marriage will require work to keep it healthy. May you always be up to the task of loving and cherishing Alexis for the rest of your life. May Alexis be up to the task of honoring and obeying you as the head of your household. Love her so much that you only need to play that obey card for the safety of your wife and children. Man, lots of advice there, Londo. It feels like I'm doing my marriage vows again. We appreciate that. Yeah, Londo, thank you for that. Really nice of you to say that. I know I have a lot to learn about being a good husband. Plot is confirming. Yeah, listen to Londo. Okay, some good stuff there. Yeah, I have no doubt that we're in for a beautiful journey together, but I'm excited to be on it with her. And I hope and think she feels the same. So I think we're going to make it through. And Londo, of course, we'll be coming back for more advice. No doubt about that. It's going to have a lot of that. Hey, what's up, Tara? Thank you, Tara. Says, congrats to Mr. and Mrs. Gouveia. Happy for you all. Yeah, she turned the docs in today. So it's official. Filed with the court. So it's a real thing. It's really happened. 29 months as a membo. Thank you, Tara. Nice to have you here. Thank you very much for saying that. Thank you for supporting us all these years. It's a long one. It's a long time. Hey, Slowpoke over on Rumble. Thank you, Slowpoke. Says, first, congratulations. Second, reach out to Danny Ann. Danny Ann Direct on YouTube, and ask about letting the accused not show his face. She's a Utah attorney who ran for DA, so she will know all about it. Interesting. So I did not know that. Did she do criminal law? So ran for DA, so probably. And maybe she was a prosecutor out there. Interesting, interesting. So Danny Ann Direct on YouTube. Yeah, I wonder, is she covering this case? I imagine she is. Has she said anything about this? Maybe it's all just like standard. Rob, it's Utah. They just turn the cameras off in Utah. Well, why do they do that? Rick D, him even asking for that tells us we need to know. He knows it was not legal and crimes were committed. Yeah, I think you're talking about Jack Smith and him reaching out to Marcia. What I love about Marcia, she just put him on blast. She's like, yeah, Jack Smith wants assurances. He's like, you weren't supposed to tell anybody that. She's like, well, I just did. Stop spying on my phones, you jerk. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So he's nervous, right? Bruce Rice, baby. What's up, Bruce Rice? I genuinely enjoy this chat the most. So damn smart and informed here. It's true. We have the smartest chat in the whole world and the galaxy probably. And also the best looking. You here at Locals have quickly become my favorites. Thank you all for the 411 and the great attitudes towards all this BS. Bruce Rice, baby. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for being here and being a part of it, man. You make it up. It's like a social fabric, okay? We're all like individual threads, but we weave together into this beautiful tapestry of liberty. Rub some dirt on it. Yeah, there you go. The Little Daisy in Jerome. It was an awesome venue. It was beautiful. Yeah, there it is right there. So that's the venue. We got a ton of pictures and videos and all that. And Alexis is in charge of all that. So I'll leave that to her. But she's assembling some stuff on her Instagram and stuff. But that's the Little Daisy. Okay, it was it's an old mining town. It was in Jerome. It's called Jerome, Arizona. And so we got the whole place. We rented the whole place. And we had everybody stay there. It was just great. It was really great. So if you're looking to get married in Arizona, it's a beautiful venue. What's up, former? The Robinson case is starting to look like a cover-up to shield the trans community from any adverse opinions. Yeah, is that what this is for? History will show the willful attempts to hide the true unknown agenda of the trans community. Well, he was certainly furried out with his trans lover, apparently. So, yeah, former, and you've got experience as a former, law enforcement officer. I'm sure you've appeared on many felonies. The felonious defendant is always in court. You bring them to court. You try to waive an appearance on a aggravated DUI or aggravated assault. Your Honor, can my client appear virtually? For what? What's the good cause for that? Well, he lives in California. Okay, then he needs to be here. Bring him over here, Sometimes they'll allow you to do it, but I mean, most of the time not. It's a felony. A misdemeanor is a whole different story. Misdemeanors, telephonic appearances, virtual appearances, pretty common. But for a murder charge, they can't even bring him over into the courtroom, and the prosecutors are like, being bums about it. Put the documents on the website, turn the camera on, let us see, so that we don't have to come up with these other bizarre theories or even think about it. Just let us see it. We don't have to talk about it, All right. So, my friends, it has been just a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for all the love. Thanks for the congratulations on the day. Big weekend for us over here. Your boy, married, happy to be so. But we'll now pause for the evening. We're going to have a great week ahead. We're going to pause tonight. It's after party time. So if you're a YouTube member, don't have to go anywhere. It should just automatically boot you to the new stream. And we'll see you in the after party. Locals friends, also, just hang tight. We'll see you back over there. And of course, we're also live streaming on Substack. Links in the description if you want to go check it out over there. But my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Happy Monday. We got a full week ahead, no doubt about it. I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths on the day. I forgot to say what's up to our friends on X. Let's see if we got any comments on X. Then we'll wrap it up on the night. Go over to after party time. Here's what we got on X. OTR Smokehouse. Now let's see how long it takes y'all to have some real babies. God bless. Says, congratulations on your marital bliss. What a bunch of nice comments. Thank you, guys. Rob is a real man now. I'm a real boy. Growing up, I know. It's good. Thank you, John. What's up? Watching on YouTube. Congrats to you and Mrs. Gouveia. Thank you, Guernica. Congrats to Rob and Mrs. Gouveia. You guys rock. Hey, what's up? Segovia. I have nothing but contempt for this entire process. It stinks to hell. The entire narrative proposed by the FBI and Utah officials is ludicrous. Now they're attempting to invoke COVID-style Zoom courtroom proceedings? Pfft, let's call it what it is. It's a cover-up. An OTR smokehouse. Sounds delicious. Congrats on your marital bliss, brother. Thank you, OTR. Amazing of you to say that. Now let's see how long it takes you to have some real babies. OTR, thanks for linking us over on Rumble. Shout out to our friends watching on Rumble and everybody for being here. Thank you very much. We're going to have a great week ahead, and we're excited to get into it. Big thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths. Chat with me says, Rob, if Alexis and you make it through the process of her changing her last name on legal docs, you're good for a long while. Daughter and new son-in-law spent 2 years and 45 seconds on paperwork, 2 hours and 45 seconds of paperwork at the Social Security office. Yeah, I can't wait to deal with more government bureaucracy. My favorite thing to do, and hers too. So, yep, I know we're going to be in for a journey. And all the things, think of all the things she's got to update. Anyways, we're excited about it and about the new chapter and the new journey that we're both on. And so thank you, my friends, for all the support, all the wisdom, all the advice. We're grateful. But we'll pause here. Before we do, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Donut Mind Me, our friend John, K-Bean, Carrie B. We got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Jigum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, all modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly around here. But this is it for this evening. Unless you're joining us in the after party, then we'll see you for a little bit longer. But we'll come back tomorrow, my friends, and get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, each night, together in liberty, holding